Well, and if anyone doesn't know, so you were the director of the Rollins Center, Entrepreneurship Center here at BYU. And one of to me, the big initiative that came out of your time here probably was Sandbox. And so what was broken that needed to be fixed?
Yes, I think it's a longer. So Sandbox was, I would say, an evolution, right? It wasn't like it wasn't something that existed on day one, right? So originally, I kind of came into BYU with this thesis that there's a better way to learn, which was by doing real things and real hard things. And so, actually taught a couple of classes that were very, very experiential, very, very hands-on prior to Sandbox. And then what then kind of triggered what then became Sandbox was the business school was trying to figure out how to place product managers or students directly into product management jobs, which is a really hard jump to make. Most people only get into product management after years of experience. And so they came to me and said, "Hey, how would you solve that problem?" And my solution was, well, if you have a job that needs experience to
Hmm.
land it, then you've got to somehow get them experience. And so we tried a few different things on that, and eventually arrived at just having them launch tech companies, right? And so that gave them the deepest, most real experience. And anyway, that thesis proved true, and that students got lots of PM jobs coming out of it, but they also happened to end up launching a lot of real startups. And so, yeah, so I guess it came from and I think even our motivation still today is that we believe the very best way to learn is by doing real things with real stakes, right? And a lot of higher ed tries to do real things, kind of project-based learning, but they lack real stakes. And when you don't have real stakes, students don't care as much, they don't engage their hearts, they don't work as hard. Uh,
Hmm.
and so yeah, so I'd say that's like the underlying like idea behind it all, but how we got there was maybe not quite so clean.
That was super interesting. I didn't know that. I've had students come to tech transfer for product management experience because,
Yeah.
again, we're an office that touches the real world, so they can
Yeah.
get that. And so,
Yeah.
if you had to explain to someone who has no idea what Sandbox is, at least in its early years when it was just here at BYU, what's Sandbox?
Yeah, so it's uh I like to think of it as like essentially a gap year to
Hmm.
launch a company, but you get credit for it, and so you don't have to delay your major at all, or delay your graduation at all. And so it's 2 semesters. You're going to be in a group of highly ambitious uh, students, engineers, business students, and you're going to form teams and come up with ideas and launch companies.
Hmm. Yeah, and they were highly ambitious. We've had a few of them work for us over here as well. And they put up, what are some big hits? What are some companies that have come out of it?
I mean, hits is hard to say because it's too early,
Yeah, yeah.
but
We're what, like 6 years into it, maybe? Is
yeah,
it that much?
we are entering our 6th year, so we just
Okay.
wrapped up our 5th year. And yeah, so we've had, I think at this point, 7 companies get into Y Combinator. Um, the total valuation of the companies that have been venture backed is now over 300 million. Um, and so yeah, so some examples of those. So there's a company called Zamo.
Yeah.
Uh, they do interactive emails, so largely for e-commerce. So rather than having to, everyone's probably received an email saying, "Hey, you forgot this thing in your cart." You click a link and go back to their site and check out. With Zamo, you can actually check out inside of the email and do a bunch of other things. And so they're doing really well, growing very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's one example. Another that is called Mention, although they just changed their name, and so I'm trying to remember. I was trying to
Oh yeah,
remember
that happens.
what their new name is, but they are like an encrypted Slack. So you know, there's a lot of privacy concerns around any sort of company messaging now. And so if Signal, which is like an encrypted messenger, kind of had a baby with Slack, that's what you'd have. So it's the version of Slack. We have another company called Mindsmith, and they are doing like AI learning. So they work with companies that do kind of corporate training for, I think, for the most part. And I'm pitching other people's companies, so I'm not going to be the best at it. But
That's great.
they have tools that help people to create like corporate training. It's all like AI based, and they're growing super quickly. So anyway, a broad spectrum of companies.
Okay, cool. And so you retired or left as director of Rollins Center, maybe was it about 2 years ago, and then launched the Sandbox, it's a company, right? Is it for profit? I think it is.
Yeah, so about 2.5 years ago, I I'm pretty young, and so I wanted to do
Yeah.
more. And so
Yeah.
was happy with what we were doing at BYU, but wanted to see if we had a broader impact and broader reach. Uh, Particularly wanted to see if we could eventually get what we were doing here to people that don't have access to the same resources. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I just kind of set on a journey to try and figure out how to scale this thing. And in the process of, yeah, we've hired a team and built out a lot of technology, and now um, we're at 8 universities. We just launched our own master's degree in partnership with Utah State, and yeah, doing a lot of things now.
Yeah, and it's not just Utah. Where I saw that. What other states are you in?
So yeah, so we're at 4 schools here in Utah, all the major ones, the University of Utah, Utah State, UVU, BYU. We're in Arizona, Idaho, and Kentucky.
Okay, in Kentucky, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
that's no, that's great. And eventually, I would imagine it'll be all kinds of places. When you add a new school, so you're providing the curriculum, kind of here's how you run the Sandbox program, but do you hire local people, or how do you scale up?
Yeah, so we have like our capstone programs, which is what we started at BYU. It's just kind of like that senior year gap year experience. And yeah, so each school, when they kind of onboard with Sandbox, they choose a local director. So someone's going to be on the ground,
Hmm.
working one-on-one with the cohort. We then have what we call our global classroom that we kind of,
Hmm.
I guess, teach through, right? And it's an experience that we've built ourselves. It's live, it's synchronous, and so all the schools are engaging together at the same time in that global classroom. So it's cool. So students are building these connections across universities.
Hmm.
And then yeah, we provide a lot of other things. Like we call our global demo day where the best teams from across all the schools come on location. This year it was in Provo. We have like a broad network of mentors and investors that they're connected to. And then the biggest thing we're investing in right now is something we're calling Aspen, which is um, imagine if you had like a super professor that you could embed beside every student. And so what Aspen does is an AI that observes what they're doing, assesses what they're doing, and then it coaches them on how to get better. And so that helps with a lot of one of the big challenges with experiential learning is that it's really hard to fit into an educational setting that requires learning outcomes and assessment and all of these things. And so
Yeah.
Aspen takes care of a lot of really all of that actually of just yeah embedding seamlessly into the work environment rather than having to then take midterms or final exams or whatever else to kind of check the boxes of higher education. And so we think that's really the future of education, right? Where students are doing things that are real, and there's this supercharged AI professor that sits side by side with them and in the whole experience. So
And I'm assuming there's a trend towards people publishing books and then having an AI that's trained on their book, right? And so is this same sort of thing where it's trained on your curriculum?
kind of, yeah. So I mean, without going into too much of the details, there's in higher ed, there's the concept of learning outcomes, or what is this person supposed to achieve, right? And Aspen's job is to see how you're doing against that. So, if you're an engineer in Sandbox, and you're supposed to understand databases or whatever else, or authentication, Aspen is going to like observe what you're doing and assess on that. I think one of the big things that was really important, especially on engineering front, is so much of like production is
Hmm.
done by AI now. And so we're not looking at the code you wrote because that's written by AI. Instead,
Uh-huh.
what Aspen is doing is really it's really checking to see what you understand, right? And to see what kind of like pilot you are to the AI, right? And so,
Yeah.
um, yeah, so I would say yeah, so there are these learning outcomes that it's driving towards that are specific to our curriculum, but then
Mhm.
I would say there's a lot of like the unique approach of how Aspen even approaches coaching you, right? And so it's more of, I would say, like it's much more Socratic, much more oral exam,
Uh-huh.
less prescriptive, I guess.
Okay. Well, and for what it's worth, I've heard from other schools are very happy with Sandbox. And here at BYU, everyone loves every student I know who's really ambitious about doing a startup wants to get into Sandbox. So is it selective, or do you take a huge number of students? And then can you kind of walk us through the process? Like what is it? what the
Yeah,
Sandbox
so it
is?
depends on the school you're at and how selective it is. So at BYU is very selective. So it was last year was our most competitive year yet. Um, so yeah, so it depends on the school. Some where we're just getting started and the word's just getting out. I would say it's less selective, right?
Sure.
We still select on making sure that everyone's super committed because it just Sandbox takes so much time. But in terms of the process, it also depends on the school. But at
Hmm.
BYU, where we're the most established, students go through this process of um, so they come to an info session. At the info session, between the info session and then like 2 or 3 weeks later, there's a hackathon. And in that time, they have to meet as many of the applicants as they possibly can. We have this kind of check-in
Hmm.
process inside of our app. And that's all designed to do two things. One is to get the cohort mixing because students don't come into Sandbox with teams. And so they've got to get to know each other so they can find teams. It
Hmm.
also shows us like it's this signal of effort, right? And so, who's willing to go out and actually meet a lot of people and push themselves out of their comfort zone, things that are going to obviously matter when you're trying to start a company.
Yeah.
So they go through that process, they form a team, and then they come to our hackathon, which is like a 24-hour thing where they build something and they turn it in and we look at that. And so what we have found is just that process of like check-ins and hackathon actually is a huge filter in itself. One of the things we know matters most in Sandbox is commitment, how much you care, how much you're willing to put into this. And so the process is designed to be intentionally high commitment, right? And so it's not something you can just fill out an afternoon with AI, right? And so
Yeah.
so that's the process. I will say it's hard. It's really, really hard to pick who's going to be great at something like this, right?
Mm.
Just because traditional indicators aren't really like GPA or your ACT score or whatever else isn't a great predictor of how you're going to do in a really high intense environment like this. So
But what is it? Is it mostly personality or drive, or what do you think matters?
uh, yeah, I think it's yeah, we believe that it comes down to like I keep saying commitment, right? Like how badly do they want it, right?
Hmm.
Um, because startups are largely an exercise in persistence, right? Like, can you survive long enough to get to the insight that's necessary to unlock growth, right?
Yeah.
And so if you don't want this badly enough, you're going to give up, right? Because you're going to hit wall after wall after wall after wall. And so that's what we try to figure out, right? And so in some ways we've actually started just asking questions around that. Like we ask students like, how many other classes are you planning to take? Are you planning to have a part-time job or something else in addition to this, right? Like what sacrifices are you making to do Sandbox, right? And so because yeah, just that commitment matters a ton. I mean, obviously other things matter too. I mean, I do think that like kind of just raw intellectual horsepower matters to some degree, right? Uh,
Hmm.
your ability, I mean, certainly on the I hate to use this word because I think everyone needs to be technical now, but like on the less technical side, are you willing to get out and talk to customers? Are you willing to get outside of your comfort zone, right? Like, you don't have to be an extrovert, but you have to be willing to go out and talk to people and face rejection and dig into that and all of that. So there's a lot of like I think attributes like that, but those are kind of hard to know. And so we mostly focus on like how badly do you want this? What kind of sacrifices are you willing to make? And then the application process as I described is kind of designed around that.
And then it seems to me like their first summer is mostly ideation, right? They're trying to decide what to work on. Is that the process?
Yeah, I mean, so we aren't doing summer stuff as much this year just because it was a double-edged sword, just because some students are off doing internships, which we want to applaud. But anyway, yeah, the
Yeah.
beginning of the process is ideation
Yeah.
and coming up with teams. And I should say our approach is really just to get them started on anything, right? I think
Yeah.
one of the mistakes that a lot of people make is spending too much time whatever on whiteboards or overthinking things.
Yeah.
And so our approach to ideation is launch now. So the very first day of class, we tell them like launch something now, like launch something in the next 2 weeks, right? Get out and start selling within the next 2 weeks. And so we think the only way to really find a credible idea is actually by selling, right? And so
Hmm.
yeah, so
And
that's
has,
where the program begins.
And has the rise of no code tools, you know, Lovable, Replit, all these, has that made you shift more that direction, or is that just a useful development?
It's super helpful, obviously. I mean, I think the ability to get to a prototype that you can show someone is obviously way faster, right?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and so I'm still a big believer in actual engineers. So
Yeah, for
not
sure.
that they should be writing code, but what we found is teams that like we have a couple even right now that don't have like more traditionally trained engineers on their team, and
Hmm.
they struggle to get a product that's actually production grade if it's any sort of complexity, right? And so but yeah, certainly in like the ideation, like finding like where people are interested in buying these tools are unbelievable, right? You can have something that looks professional and good in days, right? So,
Yeah, and so you want people who are persistent. So they come up with their idea and they're just doing something. But at what point do you say, okay, stop being persistent? That idea is just a loser, move to something else.
well, that's part of the experience. I mean, they well, I would say is like with these young students, most often I would say they give up too early rather than too late.
Hmm.
So uh a lot of times like the real idea or the real insight is 10 layers deep, right?
Hmm.
And so you've got to keep pushing on an idea until you get to that level of depth. We talked about getting to the frontier, right? So most innovation, I mean all innovation happens at the frontier, right?
Hmm.
And most students aren't anywhere close to the frontier. They've got some idea that's based on very little insight from 10,000 miles away from the frontier, and they start pushing on it, and they get rejected naturally because it's a bad idea, right? But those rejections, what they need to figure out how to do is how do you take those rejections and have them propel you closer to the frontier, right? And so, I guess that's a pivoting, if you want to call it that, but I think of it more as like an iteration towards the frontier. And so, yeah, most students, their issue isn't that is not that they stick too long. It's that they give up too early. They don't stay in an industry or a space long enough to be able to actually get to, yeah, the frontier of where, actual innovation is going to happen.
Okay. Okay, super interesting. So they go through the year, and really, I think the early insight from Sandbox is students need time to work on a startup, and so their coursework becomes that time.
That's
And
right.
is that's the key to success through it, right?
Yeah, and that was like, I mean, yeah, yeah, and it's yeah, you can't go deep on something in a 3 credit hour class.
Right.
Like if you're taking 5 other classes or 4 other classes, you're not going to build a startup. Startups would take 80 hours a week, right? And so, yeah, I think a big part of why Sandbox works especially well at BYU is that, the faculty have agreed to carve out so much time within their majors for students to do this, right? And so we have other universities that are trying lower amounts. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, time is a huge ingredient, and it's something we track in Sandbox. How much time are you putting into it? It's a core. I mean, yeah, your inputs matter a ton to the process of where you're successful.
Yeah, so I know here, so for the business school, it works out really well. For the more technical majors, like if someone's in mechanical engineering or something,
Yeah, it
can
does
they
not
just
work.
not do it? Like, yeah, how's that going to
Yeah,
work?
so I mean, at BYU, the CS program is integrated. I think they get 12 credits out of CS, but then they get 6 more through the business school, so then kind of get more in their major, and then yeah, the business school, most of the majors give you 18 credits, which is a lot. It's 9 credits each semester. It's most of what you're doing. A lot of students will, um, only take Sandbox because they're getting so many credits, and so it allows them to fully focus on it.
Yeah, and
But
so
unfortunately, mechanical engineering, and the engineering majors don't integrate with Sandbox today. So
yeah, that's a tough one. I know they want to. It's just how do we do it? So you and I are a little bit engaged in the same pursuit. Like we're both trying to scale entrepreneurship, just coming from different places. And so one of the weird things about it is like you launched, I know at least one company prior to coming to BYU that you sold to Walmart, right?
yeah,
And now Sandbox is an entrepreneurial activity that you're engaged in. And yet, because you're dealing with really large institutional customers, you're dealing with bureaucracy and red tape all the time, right?
that's all I do. Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, is that normal? Like at the top of a successful startup, maybe that's always how it is at some level. What do you think?
I mean, maybe. I think like there are definitely universities are really hard customers, right? They don't move quickly. They have challenging procurement processes. I mean, and then on top of that, like because of what we're doing, it's this really tricky integration with like accreditation, right? And like
Yeah.
how do we make sure that the university maintains, the authority they need to? And so what we're doing is a really tricky spot. I would never do this if I didn't feel like it was really important for the world. Like I think to me, Sandbox is a very mission driven thing for me. The only reason I'm doing it is literally there's people in my mind that someday I need to get this to, right? Like literal faces, people I've met around the world that is my motivation, my drive. And so, yeah, I would not be doing this. I promise you. Uh, if uh, if it wasn't, yeah, I just feel like it's my thing to do on Earth here is to like figure out how to make this happen. Yeah, there's everything I've done in business before this was easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to some extent, yeah, I mean, every startup is hard in its own way. Um, I think, um, but yeah, what we're doing with Sandbox, there's a mission that we're trying to achieve. We're very committed to that. There's a lot of people that have tried to do stuff in the education space that I think has largely been and I don't know, financially driven for them. And so you just do whatever it takes to make money and whatever else. And that's just not the case at Sandbox. We're very committed to the type of change we want to see in the world. And that's meant doing really hard things. Like for instance, a lot of like education disruptors have gone the coding boot camp route or the kind of separate, like just total disruptive model route. And we just don't think that's the way to go. For a couple reasons. One, like most people need federal aid to be able to take time to go to school. And so if we want to serve that population, then we have to figure out how to fit into the accredited traditional system, which is a huge nightmare and a huge headache, but it's worth it because we believe in being able to figure out how to serve those students. Beyond that, I believe in the power of like college campuses and physical campuses.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of education disruption that's purely online. That's great and good for them, but like, I think
Mhm.
there's just real magic in a place like BYU where students come together and they're physically together and they've got football teams and tradition and legacy and all of these things. And so, yeah, so there's a vision, I guess I'd say like there's a vision of education that we believe needs to exist in the world and it's hard. But because of that belief, that's why we're doing all the,
Yeah.
the hard things we're doing. So.
Yeah, totally. I see future universities shifting strongly towards entrepreneurship. Like it's happening in all kinds of ways. People are going to be surprised to learn that Sandbox does not take equity in the companies. Like,
Yeah.
why did you make that decision? How does it work?
I just think it's like always been. I mean, this was a passion project for me from the beginning. I mean, I was director of the Rollins Center for a couple of years, but I was volunteering at BYU for years before that. And I think I've always operated from the question of like what's best for the student.
Hmm.
And I just think what's best for a student in an incubator like this is to come out with a clean cap table, right? So they don't have to justify to a future round of why some incubator took the size of equity that they did.
Hmm.
Um, and so I just think that's best for the student, and that's why we do it. And I think it's proven to be a differentiator for us and why students are, excited to do it. I mean, plus they're paying tuition, right? Like they're paying tuition to their
Yeah.
schools. And so why should they have to pay in equity as well on top of that, right? Now, I'm
Hmm.
fully in favor of students giving away equity when someone's giving them money for it, right? And so at the end of the program, we try to get them to give up equity to investors who are going to invest in it, right? And so that's part of the venture game. But for us, yeah, I mean, I just don't think it's the right thing for students. And so we get asked about it all the time, like, why don't you take equity? Like again, like if the cumulative value of our startups now is over $300 million. If we would have taken traditional incubator stakes, that'd be a nice little chunk of change, right? And
For
so,
sure.
at least on paper. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's just not that's not why we're here, right? And I just don't think that, um, yeah, again, we're a very mission-driven organization. So
Yeah.
don't do it. It's a hard.
That's fantastic. Well, and between this and your time at the Rollins Center, you've worked personally with thousands of student entrepreneurs, like way more access and understanding than most people have. What do people misunderstand about student entrepreneurs?
Well, I think that I don't know if this is specific to student entrepreneurs or just entrepreneurs in general, but I think that like the thing that people get wrong is that they think of entrepreneurship as some sort of like, I don't know, formula or uh like mechanical process of like do this, do this, do this. And there is some of that. I think I think there's some really actually great thinkers out there right now that are really helping to like expose like how startups actually do work and better ways of teaching it. But I don't think that's actually what makes great entrepreneurs. I think entrepreneurship and really do any act of creation or any act of willing something to exist and that doesn't exist is really an emotional and uh, like very human journey, right? And so uh, you have to get that right. And so I think like the secret sauce of Sandbox is that we figured out how to inspire students uh, to make sacrifices in their lives, right? We have these shirts that when they do certain things in Sandbox that say "Limen transire," which is like Latin for cross the threshold, right? Which is like which is this emotional and almost like spiritual journey. Or I mean, if you think it's like broader, like the hero's journey, right? Like Lord of the Rings, like when
Right.
Frodo is sitting there at the Council of Elrond and decides to take the ring, right?
Yeah.
To Mordor, he crosses the threshold, right? And goes all in, right? And so um, that's really what I think matters most is getting students to go on that journey and to really do that. Most um, I feel like in, an early 20 something person's life, they tend to be highly oriented around opening as many doors as they possibly can, right?
Yeah.
Not committing to anything, right? They're just trying to open lots and lots of doors. But that's not how entrepreneurship works. Like entrepreneurship is like a full send activity, right? And so you have to really get them, like I said, to cross the threshold, to go on that journey. And that's again, that's a spiritual, that's an emotional, that's like a inside of you sort of thing, not a curriculum or some like mechanical lesson of how a startup succeeds, right? Now, those things matter too, obviously, right? Like how to find demand and whatever else is a big deal. But um, if you know the mechanics but haven't crossed the threshold, you're going to be unsuccessful. Whereas if you cross the threshold, you might fail a bunch, but you'll finally fail your way into success. I mean, that was literally the example of my first startup. Like I never talk about it to my students because we made every single mistake possible, right? Like I
Yeah.
go back and like, there's not a thing I did right in that thing other than we were all in on it. We were committed to it. I guess we did several things right. We had an amazing founding team. My co-founder was world class, right? And we made mistakes over and over again. And eventually we figured it out and had a successful, I used to say like a decently successful exit, right? And so for a success for us at the time. So,
So,
anyways, that matters a whole lot more than the mechanics and the curriculum and whatever else.
okay. So insightful. Thanks. Well, good. So, where, if people are interested in Sandbox, where can they find you? And then kind of what's next? Will you expand outside the US or what do you think happens?
Yeah, so if they're interested, they can go to our website, sandbox.ing. So sandboxing.ing.
Mhm.
Um, what's next for us? So I think like the thing that people don't understand about Sandbox is that we're really not about startups, actually. Like really, our mission is to figure out how to just like elevate human potential, right? And how do you get people to be more successful in their lives and in their careers? And we believe that's through, like I said, doing real work with real stakes. And so the next big project for us is really thinking about, okay, we've learned all of these things in the startup space and kind of like a capstone space. We're now running a master's degree that we learned a lot
Mhm.
of things. We're learning a lot of things there. Um, our core mission is like really thinking about the core bachelor degree now, right? And so how do we actually deliver degrees that um, are uh, are right for the future, right? And so there's the core to that for us is I believe that every student should graduate college with 2 years of real work experience, right?
Mhm.
And so so we're working on a bachelor's degree right now where that happens, right? So where you're rather than sitting in classrooms, you're actually sitting in not sitting, you're actually working in a real job. So if you want to go work in finance, you're actually working on Wall Street for 2 of your years of college, right? And then you got this AI professor that's embedded with you, that's teaching you, coaching you, assessing you. And so so we're taking all the model that we've been learning and developing in the entrepreneurship space and really then saying, okay, how do we deploy that in full bachelor's degrees? But similar model still, where we're partnering with universities on it. You're having a traditional freshman experience at a place like BYU, and then going out into the world much sooner, so that graduate with 2 years. So
Okay. Fantastic. Well, super important. Thanks for taking the time to explain it all to us, Chris. Love what you're doing and really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, Dave.
Yes, Chris.